Thanks for checking out this episode of On the Sidelines. John Luck with Brad McKinnon. And we lead off with the New England Patriots. And, well, I was wrong. You were wrong. We have Al in the control room. I think he was probably wrong because we all probably thought the Bengals were just going to whoop the Patriots all over Cincinnati. But turns out Gerard Mayo gets his first coaching win in the first game of the season. First season opening win for the Patriots since 2020. And I think it's safe to say the big reason for that win is Rhamondre Stevenson going off. And I think you said before we recorded, he actually had the most yards rushing in the entire NFL in week one.
Oh, yeah, that was a big surprise. And, I mean, his touchdown was just the cherry on top, too. He showed up, and it was great to see us win. I mean, the Bengals had every chance to win that game. And there were a few plays where, our defense did show up to prevent it. But I think the Bengals, more than anything, shot themselves in the foot that game. And, I mean, like you just said, the Patriots won their first start since 2020. The Bengals, I don't know if Joe Burrow was there the whole time, but they're now 0-5 in their first week, first game of the season.
Yeah, and it feels like an extension of the preseason. I talked to you a little bit about this over the past couple of days. And the fact that now you don't have that fourth preseason game, players aren't going to play in the third preseason game. And the way Cincinnati played on offense, you could kind of tell they didn't really have everything going for them, obviously, as they lost to the Patriots.
100%.
I think I saw somewhere here, I just want to make sure I get the stat right. Yeah. The Patriots forced and recovered 2 fumbles against the Bengals. When you go back to last year, the entire 2023 season, Cincinnati only lost 2 fumbles. So in 1 week, they matched all their screw-ups, basically, from last year. Right. And to me, that comes down to a little bit of coaching on the Patriots side, but the fact that the Bengals didn't take the Patriots seriously, and I had them winning 7 games this year, the Patriots, this is how they could win legitimately 7, 8, maybe more games. If you take on a San Francisco, a Miami, a Houston, and they don't take you seriously, that's how you can maybe cheat your way to a few extra wins.
Yeah, like you just said, 7 and 10's on the table, but 3 and 14's still on the table too. So both
Super
of our
Bowl's on the table,
predictions
Brad.
are on the line right now.
Super Bowl coming to Foxborough.
Listen, they say defense wins championships, and we'll talk about a certain player in a little bit, but the Patriots, I did say a few episodes ago, that the Patriots defense is something I'm not too concerned on. I'm 100% concerned about our offense, though, and where it's going to be. I mean, our line did show up pretty well for week 1, but there were some plays where you got to do better than that.
I think this almost looked like a Bill Belichick game in the fact that you kept the ball on the ground. You won the time of possession. The Patriots held the ball for just over 34 minutes, about 9 minutes more than the Cincinnati Bengals. And if you can keep the ball out of the hands of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and the rest of the Bengals, and we'll get to Jamar Chase in a second, I think that's how you win these games. I mean, Seattle, I don't think you're going to have the same issue, but when you get to the game against the Jets on a Thursday night, if you can keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands, same with Brock Purdy, you're giving yourself a chance. And, I mean, this defense isn't terrible. It's not Super Bowl caliber, but realistically, this team can make some noise in the first half of the season. And I was watching the game with some friends, and I said, you know what? I don't want to have the Patriots from last year. If I'm going to compare this, I want this to be like those Cleveland Browns teams where they lost, they made it fun, or the Lions, and you can kind of go from there. But if this is what we're going to get from the Patriots every week, I'm okay with it.
I mean, I'd definitely be okay with us beating better teams too, for sure. And you just brought up the Lions. I do want to talk about them for a second. How about David Montgomery in that overtime? He was a truck steamrolling. He was on the tracks, and everyone knew to get out of his way. You were getting ran over. That was my favorite game of this week to watch. Was who'd they play again? The Rams.
The Rams.
Rams and Lions. That was my best game of the week for sure.
And oddly enough, the Patriots take on the Rams on November 17th. And David Montgomery happy to be on the Lions, whereas Jamar Chase may not be so happy with the Bengals. I mean, there was question as to whether or not Jamar Chase was going to play in week 1, and I think you saw that. He did catch all 6 targets he had, but I think it was only for, let me just get the right number here, It was only for 62 yards. Yeah, 6 receptions on 6 targets for 62 yards. And he held out of training camp. He held out of the preseason in terms of activities. He was still in the film room. But you could kind of tell Jamar Chase, if he wasn't going to be in the game, the Patriots had a good shot at winning. And defensively, it just came down to you double Chase, you keep him as quiet as possible. And if you're going to lose, you have Zach Moss beat you or Joe Burrow beat you. And that's what they did. Burrow had 164 yards passing. Zach Moss, 9 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown.
Well, while we're talking about Jamar Chase, he's definitely showing up. He wants his contract. He wants to play, and he doesn't want to seem like a Matthew Judon or other players. And, I mean, you want to stay with your college quarterback if you can, 100%. But when it came to his performance, I got to talk about Christian Gonzalez for a second. I have a sheet right here. Yeah, he got injured last year. But this is him throughout every game he played last year. First, you had Antonio Brown. He was on him for 19 routes. Antonio Brown had 4 receptions, 47 yards. Then you had Tyreek Hill, 0 reception, 0 yards, and his interception where he jumped over him, which was one of the best picks for the Pats for a while. Then he was up against Waddle for 4 routes, 1 reception for 15 yards. Devontae Smith, also the Eagle. I skipped around there, my fault. But 11 routes, 2 receptions, 22 yards. And then Garrett Wilson, 23 routes, he covered them. 3 reception, 18 yards. And now, speaking of Chase, he was on him for 20 routes, 3 receptions, 15 yards. I've said this before, if Christian Gonzalez can stay healthy, we can shut down DK Metcalf next week. Hopefully. That might be one of his biggest challenges because DK Metcalf he's something else. His size, his speed, all of it. He's a full-round receiver.
Well, Seattle has more than just Metcalf. Don't forget you got Tyler Lockett. You have Smith and Jengba. So I think realistically, Gonzalez is going to be moving all over the field, and it's just going to come down to how do you want Seattle to try and beat you. And, I mean, if you're playing around just Christian Gonzalez, if you're the Patriots, then that's a good thing for your long-term success.
Oh, 100%. It is. Build the defense around him and Peppers, for sure.
And even when he gets back, obviously, from the blood clots, hopefully everything goes good. Christian Barmore. Yeah. I mean, this defense is going to be formidable, but it's the offense that's been the biggest question. And Jacoby Brissett has been a big part of that. And I was surprised by Jacoby Brissett and what he did on the field. 15 of 24 passing, 121 yards. This is kind of like when you go bowling and you have those bumpers off. You can't exactly screw up if you throw the ball just in the alley. Mm-hmm. That's what this game plan was for Jacoby Brissett. You make those 3rd and short plays, you hand the ball off, you keep everything safe. You don't go too far down the field, and that kind of figures into the clock management as well. This was kind of one of those games where Jacoby Brissett was that adult in the vehicle, keeping everything in check, keeping emotions in check, and this is a big reason, I think, why the Patriots got Brissett for these first few games.
Oh, yeah. He did great. I mean, obviously you want to see your quarterback go for over 200 yards, but when you have the running back going over 100 and wasting all the clock, you're happy, you know. And I mean, Jacoby Brissett came here to be a mentor and a leader, and from week 1 performance, it seems like he did that. I mean, he's out there telling people how he cried 3 times before the game. You know, that's. Some people say, oh, that's soft or this or that. That's him trying to say, hey, look, we have something here. We can do something. We just need to believe.
And how much of that is Gerard Mayo? Because Bill Belichick last year, if you have a player crying, it's because Bill's being Bill. But now you have a coach, and people can have their own ideas of what Mayo's like away from the microphones. But Mayo, to me, for everything I've said about him, it seems like he's the perfect fit in terms of just keeping emotions in check and keeping everybody in the game interested and checked in, as opposed to last year, the last 5 or 6 weeks, it's safe to say the Patriots players were checked out on Bill Belichick.
Mayo definitely seems like a player coach. I mean, you watch the video of the after game, how they give the ball out and all that. He's in Stevenson's face, saying how he's proud of him, and they're joking around with each other. They're smiling, they're laughing. And, I mean, it's good to see that he can relate to those players, because he was one of those players, and even in the same uniform, not even for a different team. You know, He was a great linebacker, and it's just good to see him taking control of the room. Bill, you can say he had control of the room, but a lot of people know this person didn't like him or this person didn't like him. And it seems like everyone is surrounding themselves with Gerard Mayo, saying, hey, we're all in this as a team. It's one. It's not do your job. It's us. It's all of us, you know.
It's do our job,
yes.
Pretty much.
Wow.
And Rhamondre Stevenson, I want to talk about him again because Stevenson went over 100 yards, and this was the first 100-yard rushing game by an individual Patriots player since 2022, when Stevenson had 172 rushing yards, and his 25 rushing attempts, that tied a career high that he had back in 2022 against the Detroit Lions. Going forward, I don't think Rhamondre Stevenson can have this output every single week.
No.
But if you have Stevenson going for 10 to 15 carries and 85 to 100 yards, you're putting yourself in
great shape.
In a great way to win. And I think that makes Stevenson a true focal point at this team's long-term success down the road.
Oh, he's a big key for the offense success, 100%. I mean, we did pick up some good wide receivers that could definitely develop into something special, but I do want to see Stevenson on the Patriots for a long run. Like, I kind of wanted to see Harris here a little longer, but obviously he went off to the Bills and all that. But I do think Stevenson, I mean, just between those two names, I think Stevenson will have more success when it comes to stats.
So you said 3-14 for the season, right?
Yeah.
I said 7-10, and I was already wrong with this first game. Does this game, this individual game against Cincinnati, does that change your outlook for the Patriots this season?
It does.
Okay.
Me. It does, 100%. I mean, like, I
4-13?
I think we might have already said this on the show. I know we said it out there, but you didn't expect that. No one in the country expected that. That's a football fan. And, I mean, just the Bengals, they had every chance to win that game. I mean, you have the touchdown. You're running in to get a touchdown. You fumble the ball on the 1-yard line. You have that punt play.
Gesicki's touchdown reception that was challenged and overturned.
Yeah. The Bengals definitely shot themselves in the foot a few times, but that's great to start a season. A win versus a team no one thought you were going to win, and that can build a snowball effect. You know, we're not going to win 4 in a row right off the bat, but we could win 4 in a row at some point in the season, like you've noted on your sheet.
Week 7 through 11.
Week 7 through 11. Put your money on it, Johnny's saying we could win 4 in a row, all right?
Yeah, to me,
starting in London too, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, I think what I had, and obviously this could be really wrong, but I had a win at Wembley against the Jaguars, a win the next week against the Jets, then Tennessee, Chicago. But if the Patriots play like this, I think you could maybe sweep the Jets series, because to me the tough one out of those 2 Jets games is the Thursday night game, because you're on the road, it's Thursday night, it's a national game, you know the fans, you know the players are going to be all hyped up.
And you're in that stadium that kills everyone's Achilles and everything else.
Yeah. I mean, Jersey isn't exactly the sports capital of the world. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But I think realistically, maybe it isn't 7-10. Maybe it is, trying to figure out my math for 17, 8-9, or maybe you can get 9-8, and maybe give yourself some real traction for a little bit later on. Be it the season or into next year. So we'll take a quick break here. When we come back, you heard Brad reference the Lions-Rams game. We'll talk about that and some interesting storylines from Week 1. And we'll also talk about Tom Brady's broadcasting debut. Maybe he should have just stuck to the football field.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Back here on the show, we talked about the now 1-0 New England Patriots, now in a 3-way tie for first in the AFC East. There were a lot of big storylines from Week 1 of the NFL season, including the Jets falling flat on their face on Monday Night Football. But I think the big thing that stuck out to me, 10 of the 16 NFL Week 1 games finished within a score, so within 8 points. And I think that says a lot about the quality of the league now.
Well, no, that's good when games are that tight. You know, one-score games are the ones you love to watch because anything can happen at any moment to change the outcome of said game. It was awesome to see that Aaron Rodgers still can't beat the 49ers. And what was he?
So I have the a few of the games here, including Baltimore and Kansas City, the first game from the season.
A toe.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. It's probably maybe a pen cap that lost the Ravens that game. And I think realistically, the bigger story for Baltimore is the tight end situation. Some of us had Mark Andrews in our fantasy lineup, and I think took him first maybe in their fantasy draft. But he ended up being a de facto lineman for Isaiah Likely, who played pretty well in that game. But I think that was a big storyline for Lamar Jackson and what could be a true bugaboo for the Ravens this year, and the fact that Lamar Jackson, again, is going to have to win the Ravens 12 or 13 games to have a shot at getting back to the championship game.
So I like Lamar, and I did want us to draft him instead of Sonny Michel that year, but obviously that didn't happen. But one thing I will say about Lamar is I think he chokes in the clutch. He had 2 or 3 plays before that throw to Isaiah Likely when he could have tied the game up, and he completely choked, in my opinion.
And
I hate, as a Patriots fan, you gotta hate to see the Chiefs win, especially when the other team has a chance.
It's not the fact the Chiefs win, I don't think. It's the fact that they're just so continuously good. It's maddening.
Well,
You think they go ahead and have a running back or a wide receiver go away like Juju Smith-Schuster, who's back with the Chiefs. But for every Schuster or Tyreek Hill that goes away, you have a Rashee Rice, you have a Xavier Worthy, you have an Isaiah Pacheco.
Worthy look good.
And, oh, yeah, you still have Travis Kelce with the Taylor Swift baggage, understandably. But still, Mahomes, continuously constant. In the opener, 20 of 28 passing, 291 yards to go along with a touchdown and an interception. He had an offensive lineman who's an idiot and was offside so many times the officials just decided to forget even calling him offsides.
There's a lot of that so far week 1, you know, with them trying to do that kind of like diamond package or whatever they want to call that. I think you just need to just stay with the straight line. You know, I get it. You're trying to prevent the edge and all that, but how much the refs called it week 1, I want to say it was over 15 times. I mean, just that game alone, I think it was at least 5 times.
And something I noticed in the Patriots game, obviously, was the first play of the game, the opening kickoff, and how the Patriots were offsides or an illegal formation. But this new kickoff rule, it's going to take me seasons to get used to it. I mean, I covered college football, high school football, and I'm used to seeing, players all running up at the same time. But this whole landing zone thing is wonky, it's weird, and I don't know what it truly accomplishes besides just having an extra play that goes to the 30.
It didn't accomplish anything, in my opinion. I mean, it's almost every year they're changing the kickoff. Just leave it how it was. It's not like you want to say it's a player safety thing. How many people are getting injured on kickoffs? I don't think I ever saw a single person get injured on a kickoff.
I'm sure there's been a few times. I understand the player safety aspect, but I mean, you're having players just going out there running, and you mentioned the MetLife Field turf. With that turf, what happens if someone tears an ACL or an Achilles running on a landing zone kickoff? It's going to be a nil effect. The one thing I've noticed, or the one thing I've always thought is, if you're going to take a rule from the UFL, which is where this landing zone kickoff came from, you take that 4th down rule or the onside kick rule where you have to convert. I think it's a 4th and 5 or a 4th and 3. And if you convert, you keep the ball. Yeah. Like, if you're going to take anything from these spring football leagues that you don't give money to, I think that's the one rule you take. So that's my little diatribe.
I do think you just got to leave the kickoffs alone. It's someone on my Facebook the other day shared something from 7 years ago, and he goes, I think I should share this every year at this point, because they do keep changing it.
So that's my little side topic there for week 1. But Washington-Tampa Bay was a sneaky, interesting game. Baker Mayfield, for a little bit, 12 of 12 passing. He finished the game 24 of 30 with 289 yards passing and 4 touchdowns for a division that I think we both agreed was the worst in the league.
100%.
The South could be interesting. The Falcons with their defense.
The Saints, too.
Holding Pittsburgh to all field goals. The Saints, I mean, Carolina should be relegated anyways, but
You're not wrong. But they put up some points. They put up some points. But the Carolina will get the first-round pick again.
it was 35-3 at halftime.
Nah.
Back to Tampa Bay, though. Mayfield, you look at the pass distribution. Godwin, 8 receptions for 83 yards. Rashad White, 6 receptions, 75 yards. Evans, 5 receptions, 61 yards. The list goes on and on. 7 receivers had a catch in that game. And if you want to have a good football team, I think that's where you start. Also, Mayfield going to the sideline, shaking the hand of each offensive lineman. Baker Mayfield could be a key figure in this 2024 season.
100%. And, I mean, you got to hate to be the Browns. You got Deshaun Watson playing how he's playing, and then you see Baker out here doing what he's doing. I mean, he was your first-round draft pick. First-round draft pick, too, and you didn't trust him, but you didn't have too many weapons for him either at the same time. In Tampa, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, those are all pretty big known names, and they were known before Brady got there, in my opinion, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I'd hate to be the Browns right now. I know it was the contract was reconstructed.
Reconstructed.
Yeah, reconstructed. Sorry, brain fart there. But Deshaun, he didn't show up too well that game. That was kind of a blowout for the Cowboys. I mean, it was a blowout for the Cowboys.
And we may find out here that maybe there was other stuff that figured into it, as now there's new allegations against Deshaun Watson that could play into his availability the rest of the year. Obviously, we're not going to get too into that, but still, the Browns could really have a lot of egg on their face if Tampa Bay makes a good run and Deshaun Watson is on the sidelines or in the courtroom for half the season.
And I will say one thing, too. Supposedly, Deshaun came out and said his father just passed away and a friend just passed away, so his mind wasn't really in the game, but at the same time, it didn't look like he even wanted to be out there.
And Dak got a new $240 million extension, which played into it. And then you referenced it earlier, David Montgomery getting a 1-yard rush to end the game to win the Lions their first game of the season at Ford Field. 26-20 in overtime. This almost looked like a game the Lions maybe shouldn't have won. They were dominating in the first half. What was it? It's 10-3 at halftime. They get a touchdown from Jameson Williams. But the Rams answer back with, let me just do the math, 17 straight points. Mm-hmm. At that point, you almost think Matthew Stafford's going to go into Ford Field, steal you the game, get revenge for what happened in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what's his name? St. Brown, what did he only have? 15 yards for the Lions. I loved overtime. I loved the overtime. And like you just said, the Rams did make it look like they were going to pull it out. But when you had Montgomery just out there running through people, it was so entertaining to watch. Because I didn't do any fantasy this year, I'll be honest. I didn't. But I always would pick Montgomery because he has some talent. And once he gets rolling, he doesn't stop. And, I mean, it would have been cool to see Stafford come in there and say, hey, revenge, but it didn't happen. And, I mean, the Lions and 49ers are my favorite team in the West. And that could very much be the NFC Championship game right there. I'd put money on that, honestly.
So I think for Detroit, I don't think we had this question last week, but the team that has the most pressure, it's going to be Dan Campbell and these Lions. They got to the championship game, so we know that the Lions can get there. Mm-hmm. But now, can Amon-Ra St. Brown get you over the hump? Can a player like a Jameson Williams or a Jahmyr Gibbs get you over the hump? Getting to the championship game is one thing, but this has to be the season where you take that final step. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, you look at the NFC right now, who are your big opposition to look at if you're the Lions? You got the Eagles with Saquon and Jalen Hurts. I mean, I'm just kind of going through everything in my head here, but you look at Tampa Bay. I think that could be that sneaky team that I referenced earlier.
They're a playoff team all day in that division. They're winning.
Even in the West, there's a likelihood or the possibility that you could get 3 teams out of the NFC West, and that could present a number of problems. And if you continue to have the Lions play we got here, we're happy with that card, that's only going to last so long before things start to go sideways and Dan Campbell's in trouble. But this was a big win for them just in the fact that they didn't let this game slip away, which they would have done, last year or 2 years ago.
The Lions are with Chicago, Green Bay, right? They're in that division?
So you got the Lions, the Vikings, the Bears, the Lions.
The Packers. Yeah. How about the Packers, huh? What a last play to ruin your hopes and dreams of this year. I mean, he'll be back, but second to last play, I should say. But
really good that they got Josh Jacobs. Imagine what this team would look like if you didn't have Josh Jacobs in there and no running.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'd have a healthy Christian Watson, but now you'd have Malik Willis or maybe even a Ryan Tannehill getting called in to make these plays.
It's weird to not see Aaron Jones over there on the Packers anymore. He had some great games over the years.
I forgot he was even taken off the Packers.
He won my fantasy one year. He in the Super Bowl got me over 33 points, I think it was, and I just dominated because of that. So thank you, Aaron. I know you're not watching, but
I like the positivity. Yeah. You're not watching, but we appreciate you watching. One other takeaway is the job that the kickers did. I think it was San Francisco's kicker that ended up doing our station manager here at BTV, Jeff Fowler, in because he had a pretty big lead, and the kicker for San Francisco goes off for, I think, 26 points in fantasy. Then you have in Atlanta, where the Falcons kept the Steelers at the end zone, but the Steelers still won 18-10 because their kicker kicked 6 field goals. I think you could see a repeat of that in week 2 and maybe a little bit of week 3, but I think that's kind of the extension of the preseason coming into play and players trying to get their wits about them into regular season speed.
So if we're talking about kickers, let's talk about that Browns Cowboys game for a second. How about that 66-yarder? That almost tied Justin Tucker's, and they lined up for a 71 real quick. I wish they went for it because they said, maybe we will this year go for a 70-yarder. That would have been the game to do it. If you're the Cowboys, you're up so much. You're
kickers on a roll. Why not go?
I mean, he had a few extra yards on that 66, just like Justin Tucker did when he nailed his in. So you think we're going to see a 70-yarder this year?
We have to in Denver for sure.
Yeah.
I referenced this before the break, so let's bring it up now in a couple minutes that we have left. Tom Brady's broadcasting debut, you mentioned the Cowboys-Browns game. He announced that game with Kevin Burkhardt. The reviews were mixed to negative. The one thing I noticed in the few snippets I saw, a lot of cliches, a lot of reserved quotes from Tom Brady. But, I mean, it's a broadcaster. I'm one of those people that I'll just pay attention to the game, not so much what's being said by the broadcaster, ironically enough.
I mean, he definitely didn't do well, but at the same time, I'm still new to this public speaking thing. Even with the town council I do in this, I still haven't completely found my voice. So it's Brady definitely, he's a rookie. It's weird to say Tom Brady is a rookie, but he is, and I mean, he'll get better. I really do think he'll get better. And he loves the sport of football. He does. So just give him time, and I do believe that it will be almost as good as Tony Romo calling out every play and et cetera, et cetera.
Then getting called in by executives to be a little bit more insightful into the games. Yeah. But how about just that awkward moment? I don't know if you saw it, where he was leaving Mike Pereira just hanging there, or Mike Pereira left him hanging on the fist bump, and it went on for an uncomfortable amount of time.
I did not see that, to be honest with you.
I'll have to show you during the break. Yeah. But if you watched it out there in TV land, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a bumpy road, but you know what? There's, 18 weeks in the season, so he has a few more chances. And it's being rumored by the McCourties, I think, in the preseason that Brady will call the Patriots-Dolphins game in Week 5, so time will tell. We'll take a break here. We have On the Sidelines overtime coming up. We'll talk about basketball, including the 76ers perhaps being on the move, and the WNBA. They're trying to be that big threat against the NFL on Sundays in the fall. Time for overtime. John Luck, Brad McKinnon back here with you, and we talked about the NFL for the first half hour of the show. We have one more segment here because in week 1 there was a game that was held in Brazil between Green Bay and Philadelphia on a Friday night on streaming, only on Peacock. And this kind of gave me the thought for this topic here. Is the NFL maybe hindering its own success by having these games on, A, in different countries, and B, on these streaming exclusive platforms? You look at Prime Video, they have, I think,
Thursday
14 or 15
football.
games on Thursday night. Peacock, I think, has 2, so maybe one more, I think, this season in terms of just that exclusive streaming platform.
And the playoff, they have a playoff game too,
Yep.
which that's ridiculous.
Then you have Netflix with a doubleheader on Christmas. I was looking at the numbers I left in my office, but I think if you want to watch every single NFL game and you cut the cord on cable, I think it's going to cost you just under $2,000. I may be off a little bit, but still, it's going to cost you a lot of money to watch all 272 NFL games in the regular season.
It's crazy. I mean, I can get behind the one streaming service, you get involved with one. So Amazon and the Thursday night football games. I can get behind that, especially since Amazon's one of the companies that says, hey, you're using this at a different IP address, you need to pay $8 more a month, you know? But when it comes to playing out of country, I do think it's good, but if you're going to play out of country, don't have the field look like it's a concrete pad with fake grass over it. Because if you saw the field after that game that Friday night, the holes everywhere, ruts everywhere. It's looked worse than MetLife or Washington Stadium, you know?
Well, at halftime, Peacock talked to the Green Bay coach, and I mean, he wanted to really give his true thoughts on it, but because the league was kind of fine him probably, he really bit his tongue and, said we need to look at that. And that's just laughable. This is a multi-billion-dollar organization with the NFL. You should be able to give your players the best conditions possible to play
100%.
in. I mean, Wembley isn't the best, but just that atmosphere alone is okay for football. Bringing the game into these different countries that aren't familiar with football and how to actually hold the game, I think that's an issue. And I think streaming is going to be the one thing that could hurt the NFL.
Oh, 100% it's gonna.
I mean, Peacock is included on some people's cable bills, but still, you look at Netflix. Like, I'm not going to pay for Netflix on Christmas Day.
$18.99 a month now, I think, for Netflix.
And we talked about this before. Playing on Christmas Day is the most asinine idea by the NFL.
You got the basketball.
Right. You got Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You have
no, seriously.
You have Thanksgiving. You don't have the NBA saying, "Ooh, Thanksgiving looking pretty good. I know that tryptophan's going to kick in, but let's have Celtics Lakers on Thanksgiving night." No,
Listen,
they give the league the night off on Thanksgiving and the night before.
The Bruins are playing on Thanksgiving this year, all right? So let's go easy with the Thanksgiving
I thought it was
talk,
the day
all right?
after.
I think it's Thanksgiving this year.
It's usually Black Friday, so I'll have to check during.
Right. I could be wrong. I definitely could be wrong.
But generally, the idea is the NFL has Thanksgiving, NBA has Christmas, and New Year's is a blur anyway,
Oh,
so no one
they're
cares.
encroaching 100% when it comes to Christmas. As
And-
you just said, it's a tradition. Everyone will watch it. Even if you don't watch football, your TV will be on, and you will have one of the 3 football games on during Thanksgiving. Just like in Christmas. I'm not the biggest basketball fan. I'm a fair weather fan. I've said this before during the playoffs, 100%. But even on Christmas, I'll have it on. I'm not watching it the whole time, but it's on. And I do think that that's a silly move to try to encroach across leagues, like something else we'll be talking about too.
Not to sound like that old guy that gets angry at everything, because if you watch the YouTube shorts, I get angry at everything on the show. But this game took place between Philadelphia and Green Bay. So Philadelphia and Wisconsin. Typically on a Friday night in the fall, what happens in Philadelphia and Wisconsin? High school football. So, I mean, we didn't have this issue in the game we covered at BTV. There were probably just under 2,000 people at BR. But still, I mean, you're asking people to make that tough choice. Do you go ahead and watch a high school football game, or do you say, you know what, I'm going to stay in and watch this product on Peacock that I have to pay an extra $8 a month for?
That's a very good point. I didn't even think about that. It's almost at the point where do I go watch my kids' game, or do I go watch the team that doesn't even know who I am?
I honestly forgot the game was even happening till I got home from the game, and I think I tuned in at the 2-minute warning in the first half. But still, the NFL, there's a rule that was made just for that. Like, the NFL can't have games on a Friday after 6 o'clock in the fall because they didn't want to combat with high school sports or college sports or whatever. But the NFL, I think their lawyers went down to the bottom of the contract or the law and said, if we shoehorn this in, this might work for that first Friday game. And if you think about it, you're going to have games for most of the season Sunday, Monday, Thursday. You know Goodell is going to try his hardest to get games on another day, be it a Friday, be it a Wednesday. You have games on Saturday as the season winds down. So possibly, you're talking about football 5 days a week. And I think you're asking a lot of your fans to give that much time, especially on Sundays. Like, I'll watch Red Zone from 1 to 8 o'clock, but that Sunday night game, I'm dragging by that point. And Monday, I have a job, and it's kind of difficult to watch a 3-hour football game after blowing, 11 hours on Sunday.
To your point right there, the only extra day I could see them ever messing around with, and not just the last 2 weeks of the year, is Saturday. I don't think you can get away with a game on Wednesday. That doesn't make sense for a team that just played Sunday or even, God forbid, Saturday or Thursday. I don't think. I mean, yeah, maybe a Thursday to a Wednesday night game might make a little bit of sense, but not really at the same time. The NFL is definitely going off the tracks a little bit, especially like we just brought up the streaming and all that. I mean, luckily no one got hurt. I mean, yeah, Jordan Love got hurt, but that wasn't because of the field.
Yeah, and that's
Brazil, because look up some pictures, and everyone at home look at some pictures of what those end zones look like, and you're going to be like, what kind of grass is that? What is that? Is that even turf? Like, what did they try to do there? And I mean, Goodell and the lawyers are very lucky no one got hurt down there.
So let's sidetrack a little bit from football, take things to Philadelphia or New Jersey, because apparently now the Philadelphia 76ers may be moving up the East Coast a little bit to New Jersey. And this was a sneaky big story. The 76ers are being sought after by the state of New Jersey because the Sixers lease in the Wells Fargo Center is up in 2031. They don't want to stay in that building really much longer. They want to go ahead and get their own building located for some reason near the Ben Franklin Bridge, so in the heart of Philadelphia. A lot of people have an issue with this, the fact that the 76ers could be moving. Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, is being rumored to give the team $400 million in tax credits, or the state is being rumored to give the team, the 76ers, up to $400 million in tax credits in a waterfront development in Camden, New Jersey, where the team already has its headquarters. To me, that's just a bad idea. The 76ers have to stay in Philadelphia. You have to make this work. I don't care how, I don't care where. This basketball team has to stay in Philadelphia.
I'm 100% with you there, and this is because I'm a diehard Boston fan. Like I said, yes, I'm a fair weather fan for basketball, even baseball, but I'll still watch when the boys are in. And when it comes to the best sports fans and the most dedicated in the country, in no order right here, you got Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. Philadelphia does not deserve to lose a basketball team, especially one that, yeah, they might not have gone all the way, but they've had some good success over the past couple decades.
And we talked about the NFL having an issue with, overburdening so much in terms of streaming and, different days of the week. Think about this. If you move the Sixers to Jersey, in the tri-state area alone, you're going to have 3 basketball teams. That's going to hurt attendance and all that. I understand the team has facilities in Camden, but to me, in terms of a historical presence, and if Philadelphia is going to be the sports-centric haven, you have to keep the Sixers in Philadelphia.
100%.
I mean, let's not forget, the Philadelphia 76ers. Why are they called the 76ers? Not exactly because it's a cool name, but, they kind of have a little bit of history, 76 in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to call them? The Jersey Turnpikes if they go north?
The Jersey dumps.
Going through New Jersey is just difficult. Sorry for watching
that turnpike, I've gone down it a few times. You get on there sometimes, you want to roll your windows up. I will say that.
You just have to you have to be really careful. You don't want to go to local instead of express, otherwise you're there all day.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll talk about the WNBA going head-to-head with the NFL, and we'll make our Week 2 picks, plus the Patriots and Jets coming up next Thursday night.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Got a big game coming up this weekend in Missouri as the BC Eagles will visit the 6th-ranked Missouri Tigers. And I've done sports TV here, or sports talk TV here, for about 11 years or so. Never once talked about BC football. This is a big moment here for the BC Eagles, the number 24 team in the country, as they take on, like I said, the number 6 team, the Tigers in Missouri. Is this season BC football's best shot at sticking out in the Boston sports scene, given the fact that they have a very talented football team and their head coach is also Bill O'Brien?
I mean, Bill O'Brien's definitely a big addition to any football team, and it's good to see. I did watch the Week 1 game versus FSU, which was good to see them win that. And like you just said, this is a chance for them to stick out. They haven't stuck out for a while. They've been kind of not lobster food, but they've been near the bottom of the bucket, and it's always good to see any Boston team start to step up a little bit.
So I think there's a lot of big contributors here. Obviously, Bill O'Brien and, giving a new culture to BC. There's been a lot of talk about him, almost being a Belichick type of coach, letting cell phone use really go down a little bit and having the team really zone in on some of the matchups they have. That Florida State game, they were really focused. I think there was maybe one penalty called on the Eagles in that entire game. They took out Duquesne 56-0, nothing impressive there. But the quarterback for the team, Thomas Castellanos, so far this season through 2 games, 340 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Those are some nice stats right there.
If he plays at that clip, he could be in contention for a Heisman. I don't know if he'll win it, but I think it's really important for this football team to have a great coach like Bill O'Brien and to have a Heisman caliber player in the Thomas Castellanos. Plus, Trayshawn Ward was really important in that Florida State game, catching some passes in the flat, and he was one catch away from making that Florida State game instead of 28-13. It would have been 35-13. He had a wide open shot at a catch on the sidelines, but he dropped it. But still, Trayshawn Ward, looking here quickly, 20 carries this season, 132 yards. Robichaux, 25 carries, 112 yards. This team has everything you need to be successful in the ACC that now has 37 members. But looking at the Eagles' schedule coming up, they have that game against Missouri, then they come back home for the Red Bandana game that, A, has a lot of meaning, but B,
100%.
The heights are going to be insane. If they get a win this Saturday against Missouri, you're talking about a 3-0 football team in BC coming home in the Bandana game, which is big for a lot of reasons, but obviously the heights will be hyped. You'll have a Saturday night game. I can only imagine what that's going to feel like for the players against Michigan State, a Big Ten opponent.
No, it's going to be big, and especially like you just said, it's the Red Bandana game, and we're filming this on 9/11, so I'm definitely going to tune into that. That's for sure.
So
What a story that is, man. Every year, at some point, it pops up on my Facebook or any other social media, and I rewatch that video because that's a story and a half.
So I'm looking at the schedule right now for Boston College, and I think I see 2 losses.
Go easy, because you thought the Pats were going to win 7 games, all right?
So, if I bet the Patriots to win 7 games and they snuck one out against the Bengals, this could be great. You could be talking about a 1-loss BC team. But I'm not 100% sure about this game in Missouri. But, You know, it's still early in the year. You still have some surprise factors. They could sneak one out. The only real game I see being a big problem for this team is the game at Virginia Tech on October 17th. And that's just because you want to talk about a stadium that gets hyped for a football game. Watch the entrance for that. I mean,
all the fans, you think the stands are going to collapse.
Enter Sandman blasting. If you want to
Everyone's jumping.
If you want to get hyped up, go on YouTube and watch that for 5 or 10 minutes. You'll get ready to run through a brick wall.
The Bruins need something like that for when I come back to the Garden this year.
So they can make another great run to Game 7 of the semifinal.
At least the girls went all the way.
They
lost. They followed the Boston Bruins' footsteps and lost in the Game 5, which was Game 7. But speaking on that real quick before we go on, they got a name.
Boston Fleet.
Boston Fleet. And their symbol, in my opinion, was the coolest one out of all the 6. The name might not have been the best, but the symbol, they got the waves. They broke it down what everything means, but it all has to do with how a lot of people were founded this area with the sea and all that, which was really cool.
Only thing I'm disappointed in is the fact they didn't just use the Fleet Bank logo. I mean, you could have saved so much on marketing. Just reuse the pens, the shirts, and all that. And if I remember reading right, the Boston Fleet, the women's hockey team, is rumored to actually potentially host a game at the TD Garden, and we saw how successful that was for the Sun. So I'd imagine for the Fleet, that's only going to be mirrored.
I believe they were the only team last year that didn't get to play in their brother team's barn. And I mean, you had home ice in the finals, and TD Garden didn't say, hey, half the stadium can be Minnesota, I believe, and half of it can be Boston. That was a big missed opportunity, because in Lowell, they did sell out. All those games were sold out, and I do think Minnesota fans would have came to Boston for Game 5, for the final game.
That requires thinking, sports and thinking, and owners.
The Jacobs family.
Yeah. Oh, don't even. Jacobs.
Moving on here.
Speaking of women's sports, I want to talk about the WNBA and some surprising news. The playoffs are quickly approaching here. They start Sunday, September 22nd. That's not the surprising part. The surprising part is that the playoffs are taking place on Sunday, September 22nd. You have games at 1, 3, 5, and 10. And what else happens every Sunday in the fall, Brad?
You have about 5 games at 1, 4 games at 4. You get what I'm saying in the NFL. Not the smartest idea in my opinion, but I do think the women fans in the basketball league, maybe their husbands will be in the other room watching football, and they'll be in their bedroom watching the basketball game. It's not the smartest idea to have it on Sundays, in my opinion. But I do think their fans that they're building, constantly keep building, will continue to support them, especially during the playoffs. If it was regular season, I'd say the NFL would wipe the board. But with it being playoffs, yeah, you could have picked a better time, better days, I should say. But
well, the issue is, we mentioned so many times before, I mean, if the NFL is playing games on Sunday, Monday, Thursday, pick another day, then you're shoehorning playoff games in. There's 5 Sundays this is happening where the WNBA is going head-to-head with the NFL. September 22nd, first-round game. September 29th, a mixture of first-round and second-round games. Then you get the conference finals on October 6th. But you have 2 potential WNBA finals games going head-to-head against the NFL on a Sunday. I don't see any games on a Monday. I don't see any games on a Saturday, so they're not going head-to-head with Monday Night Football nor college football. But you're asking your fan bases to really dedicate themselves here. I know one of the top teams in the league is the Liberty. They play in New York at the Barclays Center. You have the Sun. They're the number 4 seed, I believe, in the WNBA. But then you have a team like the Aces who play in Las Vegas. And what's Las Vegas usually focused on Sundays?
Racking in money.
The WNBA is a growing product, and it's been a great product to watch all season. If you haven't checked out these games, I encourage you to watch them, because it's kind of like watching what the NBA used to be. Offense is really predicated on action inside the 3-point line, unless you're a Sabrina Ionescu or or Caitlin Clark. You're going to launch threes from everywhere. But I think they're really rolling the dice here by having these games go head-to-head with the NFL. And it's early in the afternoon, too, and, the first couple Sundays here. That quadruple header on the 22nd, then you have the double header on September 29th. I'm just afraid of what this could do to the momentum that the WNBA has in terms of viewership.
The viewership they've 100% been building up the past 2 years. And I mean, Caitlin Clark definitely helped this year. But as I just said a few minutes ago, and you just basically said the same thing, you guys you're rolling the dice trying to go up against the NFL. I mean, not everyone watches Thursday night football games, not everyone watches Monday night football games, but probably 75% of people will watch one game at some time on a Sunday in the football league.
Plus, speaking of the growth, the number of WNBA teams now play in NBA arenas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the Caitlin Clark effect. I mean, the Sun played the LA team at the Crypto.com Arena, I think it's still called that, where the Lakers play. Yeah. You have the Lynx playing in the Target Center. You have the Liberty selling out the Barclays Center. So I'm just afraid that if the attendance isn't what it has been, if that maybe hinders what the WNBA is trying to do. And again, it's difficult because the NFL has games 5 or 4 days a week, so you have to really shoehorn yourself in. And you have to finish before the NBA schedule starts in the middle of October. Mm-hmm. So it's for the WNBA. Unfortunately, it's one of those cases where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I mean, I wish them the best of luck. I hope the best for them. I'm going to probably check out some of the games too, but I think it's going to be a really dicey proposition in terms of viewership and attendance at the arenas. Let's get back to the NFL and make some picks here for week 2, and we'll also make our pick for week 3 for the Patriots. Let's start off with a Sunday night game, and this is a sneaky good one. Chicago visiting the Houston Texans. Houston coming in as 6.5 points favorites.
I'll take the Texans by 10.
By 10?
By 10.
I'm going to take Houston. I don't know if it's going to be that close because the defense for the Bears, they won the Bears that game against the Titans in week 1. Mm-hmm. So I think it may be a little closer than 10.
What a play.
What's that?
Malik or whatever, Willis Levis there, when he threw the ball and he's on his knees like this. It's like, yeah,
Mark Sanchez going, oh, no. Next up, Pittsburgh at Denver. This could be a good one, too, because Denver's defense really battened down the hatches against Seattle. And I think Seattle's average starting position for most of the second quarter was probably inside their own 3. So that defense is really talented. Pittsburgh, they're still finding themselves. If this comes down to a field goal kicking competition,
yeah,
maybe that gets you the win. Denver is a 3-point underdogs at home. I'm still going to take the Broncos to come out with this one.
I'm taking the upset myself, too. Because, Steelers, as we just said, they couldn't even get a touchdown this week. The Patriots were the 32-place team in the league. We at least got a touchdown.
Well, Russell Wilson was supposed to start that game against the Falcons.
How about him sitting on the sidelines with the shoulder pads on and everything?
How Russell Wilson has fallen.
Yeah.
All right, let's ride into our Monday Night Football matchup here. Atlanta taking on Philadelphia, the hometown Eagles, 6.5 point favorites.
That's a 2-score win by the Eagles, in my eyes.
I've been kind of hesitant because I have Jalen Hurts, but I also have the Falcons defense, so I've really wavered back and forth.
I mean, Barkley, his first week, if he can do 60% of that all year round, you're gonna see the Eagles take out either the Lions or the 49ers out of my NFC Championship prediction.
Just seeing what he did against the Packers, did you see that stupid long run he had? It was like 50 or 60 yards. He got tripped up inside the red zone.
How about the catch, too, in the end zone?
That's your X factor, and that's why I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. And I'm going to sit the Falcons defense.
That Giants GM, like he said on Hard Knocks, he's probably having a hard time sleeping right now.
It wasn't feasible for Barkley to stay there.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
I'm
still,
guessing
him going to Philly out of all teams in the league, you'd probably rather see him go to the Cowboys than Philly.
At some point, you just have to find it in your heart to say, you know what, we have Daniel Jones. Enough said. Cincinnati, Kansas City taking place in Arrowhead Stadium. I should probably get the odds. It's KC 6-point favorites.
I'm gonna This is gonna be the weird pick. I'll take the Bengals.
Really?
A big rebound by the Bengals after a big upset.
A lot of people are saying that Kansas City stole one against the Ravens. Patrick Mahomes is a vengeful quarterback, so God help the Raiders on October 27th after the little puppet ordeal.
Puppet.
Bengals are still within the first 2 weeks. You gave the record. They're awful in the first 2 weeks. Give me the Chiefs by, I think, 14. Seattle at the Patriots. This is kind of the surprise because I thought this was going to be the game the Patriots would win. I still think the Patriots are going to win, but I think it's going to be a little more difficult knowing what Kenneth Walker can do against this Patriots defense. You're going to be stretching out that secondary with that three-headed passing threat, like I mentioned, with Lockett, Metcalf, and Smith and Jigba. But now that you have Walker in there as kind of that fourth cog in the wheel, the Patriots are going to be playing this one a little closer, I think, than what we saw at Cincinnati, which was more of that color-by-number win.
So, as we said, we both predicted this game actually going to the Patriots. This is one of my three that I thought the Pats should win. And I'm just going to stick with that. And, I mean, I'm excited to see. I know it's not going to happen a lot because they have Lockett. They have the three-headed beast over there in the wide receiver core. But I do think Gonzalez should have good matchups versus DK Metcalf. And I'm excited to see that because DK Metcalf, I know he did cover A.J. Brown versus the Eagles week 1 last year, but I think DK Metcalf might be a bigger and more of a threat than A.J. Brown type wide receiver.
So you take the Patriots. I'm going to take the Patriots too.
Yep.
And then week 3, because we're not going to be here next week, the Jets are 7-point favorites for what that's worth. Obviously, lines get really made after the game, so just for graphics' sake, the Patriots are 7-point underdogs on the road against the Jets. And with not seeing week 2, this is kind of difficult.
It is, 100%.
I'm going to take the Jets. So
Yeah.
it's, as I mentioned, a primetime game on the road. Aaron Rodgers still trying to have his revenge tour after what happened in San Francisco. There's a likelihood that he could come out and throw 6 touchdowns against anyone.
I mean, he's still calling out the plays, changing the plays last second, hiking the ball with 1 second left on the clock. He's definitely got talent, but I'm going to be weird right now, all right?
Let's get weird.
Patriots right now are in first place in the AFC East, and the Jets are in the 4th. Things feel normal. They do. So I'm going to say the Pats win by a field goal in week 3.
So you realize
I'm going to change my predictions already and say that the Patriots are going to surprise the world and we're going to win at MetLife, but we'll probably lose at Foxborough. I do think we have, out of any team in our division, to split a series, I'm going to say it's the Jets. And I'm going to give it to us away.
there's a possibility
This
here.
is me being silly. I know that, but
If things get really weird, they win against the Bengals. We both predicted them to win
For
against the
Seattle.
Seahawks.
Yep.
You took them to win against the Jets. That's 3-0.
oh, yeah.
If that's not weird, I don't know what is.
That's why I'm saying I'm being silly right now. I'm not putting money on the line so I can be silly, all right?
Put that on the sidelines, paycheck on the line. We thank you for watching this episode of the program. As I mentioned, we're off next week, so we'll be back with you coming up in 2 weeks. And according to Brad, we could be talking about a 3-0 football team.
We should at least be talking about being 2-0, so we'll see what happens.
I don't know. Apparently we get weird. Talk to you in a couple weeks.
Have a good one.